out of the tragedy in Parkland, we are now seeing a despicable and ugly part of tragedy. Conspiracy theories, just like after Sandy Hook and even September 11th. Truthers, pathetic, are crawling out of their holes with terms like false flag, referring to a staged event, and crisis actors, a term for victims they believe are faking it. This typically is beneath us to even
but it's important.
Report.
It's important right now because it's happening in real time. You are seeing the spreading of fake news in real time around a tragedy that I was physically at. So people, and by the way, lots of people were at 9/11, but there's people who don't believe it happened. This is happening in real time.
This tweet calling outspoken student journalist David Hogg a crisis actor. Do you know who liked that tweet? The first son, Donald Trump Jr., the President of the United States' son, undermining the credibility and sincerity. A young man and his sister, who, by the way, was also at that school, who witnessed what no one should.
Okay, let's talk about this. I think it's really important for people to understand what's actually happening right now after this thing. Let's look at these stories floating around and show you how ridiculous and disrespectful and dangerous they are. The most popular one is this. It's showing David Hogg, whom you spoke to the day after the tragedy.
Eloquent,
one of the most articulate,
mature,
eloquent, yes.
Who also runs the school video team. He does TV news in high school.
He attends that school. That's proven. David, speaking after the shooting last week, and another one from August of last year showing him speaking to CBS local stations in Los Angeles. The message trolls are sending ask how he could be a high school student in California and Florida. But take a look at the name banner. He's a witness. He was a witness over here. Taken out of context, this could be misinterpreted. Here is the context.
David Hogg says his 17-year-old friend put his boogie board on this beach trash can. And when a lifeguard asked him to move it, he did. But then the situation took a turn.
He said, I didn't know it was a crime to put your board on the trash can, because he just didn't want it to get sandy.
The guy appeared in a news piece. At no point did he say he was a California high school student. The piece didn't say that. He wasn't speaking about a tragedy. It was about a confrontation between his friend and a lifeguard. As for why it was in California, one of the great things about living in America is the ease of movement from one state to another, say for vacation. Southern California, a vacation spot for decades. Now, that hasn't stopped this whole thing from going viral. This post over here shared to one of our colleagues' timelines was shared more than 100,000 times, 111,000 times as of last night. Here's another one people are particularly susceptible for falling for. This one shows a close-up of David speaking, pointing out that he has an earpiece in just one ear. The implication is he's being fed lines. But again, that is wrong. This thing that they're pointing at right here, it's called an IFB. Anybody in TV knows what it is. I'm wearing one right now. This is it. This is how my producers talk to me.
I interviewed David Hogg from a studio in New York City.
Yeah.
He was in Parkland, Florida.
He hears you through one of these.
The only way he was able to communicate with me in that television interview was through that device.
That's right. Everybody who has ever been a guest on TV has an IFB. That's how you hear guests who aren't with you on set, like Stephanie just said, or anchors in the studio if, like David, you're being interviewed at a different location. On set, guests also wear them so they can hear any other interviews we play or any guests not here. It's usually not noticeable. It's designed not to be noticed. You see, even if I go like that, you can't really see it. It only gets latched on to because people, not everybody in a studio every day knows what this is. It can be a little mysterious. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just how we hear our producers.
Let's talk about common sense. If you're watching someone do a remote interview from Florida while the TV anchor is sitting in New York, I got a loud voice. How would they possibly hear me? Screaming from a New York television studio?
Through a speaker? All right. For all that the president and his son like to call us and other organizations fake news, this is literally fake news. If you see this anywhere, especially articles claiming that these kids are crisis actors like True Pundit does, it's just not true. And while these other two, Gateway Pundit, which, by the way, has credentials to be in the White House briefing daily, something kind of amazing, and InfoWars don't explicitly say he's a crisis actor, they push conspiracy narratives that are meant to cast doubt on the legitimacy of what these students are saying. And if Donald Trump Jr. sees this at some point, or you know Donald Trump Jr., please tell him next time to think about hitting the like button, undermining the credibility of children who have just experienced unimaginable horror, a shooting at their school, and the death of their friends. Think of this first.
You cannot look me in the face and tell me what happened isn't real. You can't tell me in my face that this violence does not occur, not after you've lost your friends, not after you've lost people you've known for so long.
So you think she's an actor
should we
too?
apologize?
She punched herself in her face, you think?
Should we apologize that these high school students are articulate, are mature, and are passionate? I think that's what we want of our young people. Apologies that they're not tongue-tied or ignorant.
This is fake news. This is fake news. Do we make mistakes sometimes when we cover things? Absolutely. But falsifying information and spreading it out there to millions of people, that's fake news. That was Sam Fuentes, by the way. She survived last Wednesday's shooting. That black eye and the bullet wound she has are real.
Her dearest friends, Nicholas DeWart and Helena Ramsey, who were right with her in that class, did not.
They died.
They died right next to her. Now this girl and her classmates have to have their names and their reputations smeared from garbage organizations who want to do nothing but spread lies and hate.
Joining us now is Jonathan Morgan. He's the CEO of New Knowledge. It's an organization that aims to protect social networks from manipulation. Jonathan, what do you even do? Where do you start with nonsense like this? The instinct for people like us is to say, it's nonsense, ignore it. But we have seen the number of times it's been retweeted and checked, and that Donald Trump Jr., the son of the President of the United States, is engaged in this nonsensical fake news spreading.
And that's exactly how it works. You have networks of accounts, troll accounts, who will say literally anything to advance their agenda. So they'll manufacture a narrative, they'll come up with these ridiculous conspiracy theories attacking students who were literally in the line of fire. And then to promote their agenda, they'll manufacture crowds, fake conversations, amplify their activity with bot accounts, and target these kind of second-tier, third-tier political figures and pundits like Donald Trump Jr. to try and get them to pick up on the story and then legitimize their narrative. Okay. And so that's why you see organizations like Gateway Pundit and InfoWars promoting this type of nonsense, because they're exactly the sort of organizations that can be used to distribute this type of fake news.
But is this not a call for regulation and action? News organizations that have journalistic standards, we can't put out things like that. We wouldn't. We would get in serious trouble for doing something like that. And while Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg want to say that their platforms are about community engagement all day long, they are the platforms most used today to spread news and information. Yet there's no regulation. They can sit there and talk about community engagement and freedom of speech and take no responsibility for hate being spread.
It's a very challenging question, and so I think it's very nuanced. I understand why the social media companies are reluctant to take accountability or take ownership of this problem, but I think you're right. In fact, they have to. It's their platforms that are being exploited. If any other company had built a product that was being exploited in this way to damage the lives of Americans, we would be up in arms and we'd be proposing legislation. So in the same way that a credit card company or a company like a company that loses our personally identifiable information, has their system hacked, and thousands of credit cards are leaked all over the internet, that type of damage, we hold people accountable. So the fact that social media companies can be exploited in the same way, that their systems can be basically hacked by people who are manipulating the public and spreading propaganda, I think there has to be either a discussion of legislation or some real act that the social media companies can demonstrate that they're taking ownership and being transparent about their process for removing this type of content from their platforms.
Well, we were able to find the Russian Twitter troll nonsense here at NBC, which means Twitter was able to find it, obviously, because they took it off. They know where to find it. They know how to identify garbage. They really do need to take some steps to get it off their platforms. Jonathan, thank you very much. Jonathan Morgan.
Thank you for having me.
It's very confusing for people who read social media to now have to say, that's interesting. Do I believe it or not? This is where we need artificial intelligence, we need proper algorithms, and we need these companies to say, you're reading garbage. Alert, alert. This is nonsense. It's not proved. It's not corroborated.
Or they don't have to offer up their platforms to those who are spreading lies and garbage.
It's unbelievable. All right.
Called standards.
Coming up next, the web of connections that are tying President Trump to Vladimir Putin with so many players.